In order to build a family through adoption, another family must be destroyed. And that is the true reality of adoption. Did you know in the state of Ohio that once you sign an adoption agreement, also known as a permanent surrender, that it is final and there is nothing you can do about it? It doesn't matter the circumstances surrounding you signing that permanent surrender, there's no backing out. Adoption is always viewed as this happy, sunshiny, fluffy little puppy of an amazing, selfless act. It is never about the biological families, especially vulnerable mothers, who are forced into giving up their children for adoption. I have been involved in adoption reform for the past 8 years. I have been negatively affected by adoption. I am working with my legislators and senators to pass new legislation to protect everyone. And that is by reinstating a revocation period in the state of Ohio. It is necessary, and I will explain why. A revocation period is the time after signing a permanent surrender, the period of time after signing a permanent surrender, that a biological parent has the right to change their mind about giving their child up for adoption. It is completely necessary, and most states have revocation periods. In fact, Ohio used to have a revocation period, but the money behind adoption led legislatures years ago to do away with that, unbeknownst to most people. It used to be here, it's not anymore. A permanent surrender is a legal document that a parent signs, a biological parent signs, relinquishing the rights of their children for the sake of adoption. There are a lot of reasons why people sign permanent surrenders, and we can't negate the fact that some of them are terrible. Coercion, duress, forced to sign, pressure from a loved one, there's religious pressure. There are so many reasons, and a lot of them are temporary crisis of finances, things like that could easily be overcome had that mom been given a little more time. Revocation periods are so important, and they are important to protect everybody. First of which are adoptive parents themselves. You might think that's crazy for me to say that, protecting adoptive parents. They're the one that adoption is all about anymore. It is only about the adoptive parent. It's not about children or biological parents anymore. But if I was an adoptive parent, I would want, and I know many of them, to know that my child that I am adopting is adoptable, that I am not going to be in a court case litigating for the next 3 to 5 years, spending tens of thousands of dollars in a contested or disrupted adoption. Between 8 and 12% of all adoptions in Ohio, as of today, are contested adoptions, meaning you will fight for years and you will spend a lot of money and you may not have that child. And the emotional toll that it takes on adoptive parents is important to know, and it's important to speak about. But a revocation period eliminates that worry for adoptive parents, that they know once that revocation period is over, that that child is theirs forever. And that's important. A revocation period also protects biological parents, obviously. A lot of mothers are signing these permanent surrenders, a majority so in the state of Ohio because of pressure from adoption agencies, 3 days after giving birth. A social worker, agency social worker will visit you in a hospital while you are still on medications and narcotics from the pain of childbirth and have you sign a lifetime decision, a permanent surrender in the hospital. And there's nothing that they can do. A lot of agencies today, unfortunately, in the state of Ohio, they don't want to deter a biological parent from giving up their child for adoption because of the fact it is a billion-dollar industry. They're making a lot of money off of the selling of babies, and that is the hard reality of this. And the adoptive parent, who spends between 40 and 50 grand usually adopting a child, is the paying consumer. And that is who agencies are aimed to please. And unfortunately, they don't help adopt their biological parents. They don't tell them the support things or anything that's out there for them to help them so that they don't have to give up their child for adoption. And a revocation period helps with that. It allows them to be off of drugs. The hormones involved in pregnancy, especially at the end, in the 10 days after you give birth, are astronomical. It allows them to be in a better frame emotionally, hormonally, physically, everything, to make sure they are making the right decision for themselves and their child. The best thing for a child is to be with their biological parent if they are a healthy parent. And we need to do more to preserve families. And having a revocation period back in the state of Ohio helps that. The final thing I want to talk about when it comes to a revocation period is what is known as ICWA, or the Indian Child Welfare Act. It was enacted by our federal government in 1978 to protect Indian children from being adopted. Like, why is there a law from our federal government that protects Indian children and makes it so that you cannot even sign a permanent surrender until at least 10 days after birth? Why do those exist for Indian children but not for everybody? The thing is states make this decision, and the federal government thought it was necessary to protect Indian children, and that it became an issue. The Indian children were being taken forcibly under duress with coercion and given to families to adopt. So they thought it was okay to protect Indian children, but why is the state of Ohio not thinking it's okay to protect non-Indian children? The Indian Child Welfare Act got it right. It gives you time after birth to make sure you're making the right decision. It protects families. It protects everybody. And the Indian Child Welfare Act, also known as ICWA, is the standard by which all states should be using. It is absurd to think that you can return a used car in the state of Ohio within 30 days of purchase. But once you sign a permanent surrender, it is over. And that is a permanent solution to normally in adoption, a temporary crisis. And that is not okay, and it is not acceptable. We need to have a revocation back in the state of Ohio, revocation period. And I'm not looking for a lot of time. I think between 10 and 14 days is enough, because children need to be in their homes, the home that they're going to be in forever. But I also believe that it needs to be done right. I am not anti-adoption. I believe adoption is a necessary thing. I believe it could be a great thing. But I am against unethical adoption, and I am fighting for reform in adoption so that everyone, especially the children, are protected. And these are the reasons why I think a revocation period should be enacted, reinstated back in the state of Ohio, and why it is so necessary. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.